Hey y'all, Beasley here, coming to you once again from my neighborhood, the Riverview neighborhood of Tulsa, Oklahoma. If you've watched previous episodes, you know that I love this neighborhood. There are many reasons that I think this is the best neighborhood in Tulsa, and today we will look at one of those reasons. Today we're going to talk about the history of Tulsa as told by the Riverview neighborhood. We will begin our journey through the neighborhood and our journey through time in 1928. So by the late 1920s, many native peoples of southeastern United States realized that removal was inevitable. Rather than waiting for forced relocation, what we commonly call the Trail of Tears, many families moved to Indian Territory well before the removal. This home belonged to one of those families, the Perryman family. A number of Muskogee settled this area well before the forced removal. The Perryman family arrived here in 1828, and they controlled a large cattle ranch just to the southwest of where we stand now. This house was a home for part of that Perryman family. It was built in 1892 at 6th and Cincinnati, which is now near the heart of downtown Tulsa. In 1909, the county approved construction of a new courthouse on that site, and this house was moved. The Perryman wanted to be close to downtown, close to the railroad, close to freshwater springs, and close to the Lochapoka settlement. The Perryman chose Riverview. Many Americans were first introduced to the area that would become the Riverview neighborhood in 1835 with the publication of Washington Irving's A Tour on the Prairie. Irving, best known for Rip Van Winkle, Legend of Sleepy Hollow, was also an adventurer and travel writer. In 1832, he joined the U.S. Army Dragoons in an expedition from Fort Gibson to explore what would become Northeast Oklahoma. Irving wrote about this spring in the Riverview neighborhood, and the party rested along the ridge that is now the historic Owen Park neighborhood. The first permanent settlement in the Tulsa area, in the neighborhood now known as Riverview, began in 1836. The Lochapoka band of the Muskogee Nation was forcibly removed from their ancestral home in Alabama during the Andrew Jackson administration. When they arrived in the area, the Lochapoka chose a prominent overlook along the Arkansas River for their new council grounds. The embers of the tribal fire were placed near an oak tree that is now known as the Council Oak. The post oak is a common tree here in northeast Oklahoma. In fact, it dominates the ecoregion known as the cross timbers found west of the Arkansas River. Post oaks routinely live 350 years or more. This is an exceptional variety kept healthy by the high water table and the natural springs in the area. Next to the council oak tree is a small park with a monument to the home fires of the Lochapoka, the first inhabitants of the Riverview neighborhood. In the 1880s, the St. Louis and San Francisco Railroad, the Frisco, was looking for a place to cross the Arkansas River. The Frisco was able to secure a much better lease deal from the Muskogee Nation than from the Cherokee Nation, which lies just to the north of the Lochpoka village. The Frisco line reached this location in 1882 with this bridge constructed quickly after. This was the founding of the settlement that has since become the city of Tulsa. On September 16th of 1893, the federal government opened up the Cherokee Strip in northwest Oklahoma. 16 million acres, more than 100,000 people lined up to make a claim, but not everyone was able to stake that claim, and some of them ended up back here in Tulsa. Great example. One of my favorite early Tulsans, Lon Stansberry, was traveling with his family to the land run. When they were on their way back to their home in Missouri, they camped here on the banks of the Arkansas River. His mother heard about the Presbyterian Mission School in Tulsa, checked it out, liked what she saw, and they became permanent residents. Lon, 13 at the time, started working on a ranch, then was a clerk in a store, before being a farm implements dealer and real estate developer, and one of the influential early Tulsans. Another example of an individual who failed to make a claim in the 1893 land run, but found success in Tulsa is James McBurney. James McBurney came from Kansas, and when he was unable to win the plot of his choice, he settled in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. In 1897, James McBurney and his brother Sam were offered jobs in the newly organized Bank of Tulsa, largely due to their baseball prowess, with both brothers being prominent members of the bank's baseball team. James rose to the position of vice president, and in 1904 organized his own Bank of Commerce. His brother Sam became the first football coach of the University of Tulsa in 1908. His 1916 football team went 10-0, including wins over Oklahoma and Oklahoma A&M. In 1926, James McBurney built this 16,000 square foot Tudor Revival home in the Riverview neighborhood. The 3-acre riverfront property includes the spring visited by Washington Irving in 1832. The Dawes Commission was established in 1893, tasked with creating a list of members of each Native American tribe and to allot or assign Indian Territory lands to individuals of those tribes. Until this time, there was no individual land ownership among tribal members. Attorney James Vesey came to Indian Territory as part of the Dawes Commission. After allotment and Oklahoma statehood, Vesey represented oil and gas companies building this colonial revival across from the County Oak Tree in 1913. The first wagon bridge across the Arkansas River was built by private investors in 1904. This bridge connected the city to Tulsa County's first oil well, the 1901 Sioux Bland, a few miles west of the river, and to the larger 1905 Glen Pool oil field. The founder of Avery Oil and Gas Company, Cyrus Avery, came to Tulsa in the year of our statehood, 1907. He bought a cattle ranch and in 1908 owned a 1,400-acre farm near Tulsa. He recognized the economic need for more efficient transportation for both his businesses and for the continued growth of Tulsa. Avery was elected chairman of the Tulsa County Commission in 1913 and is largely credited for the construction of the 1915 11th Street Bridge across the Arkansas River. And here is that 1915 11th Street / Route 66 bridge over the Arkansas River. So it was Oklahoma's favorite native son, Will Rogers, that said, if you don't like the weather in Oklahoma, just wait a few minutes and it'll change. And wow, did it change. So we're gonna get inside and wait for it to change again, and then we'll come back to the video. Okay, we're back. So after about a 30-minute break due to the weather, we are back here on Route 66, which marks the northernmost boundary of the Riverview neighborhood. We were talking about Cyrus Avery. In 1925, Cy was a member of the Oklahoma Highway Commission and was appointed to the Federal Board of Interstate Highways. And it was in that capacity that he made sure that Route 66 came through his hometown of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and crossed his bridge. One of the things I like about this bridge, if you look carefully, you can see where the trolley tracks were laid down. Interestingly, when they stopped using the trolley, they just covered those rails with cement and asphalt. And so as the asphalt wears away, you can tell where those rails are still under the roadway. This monument, completed in 2008, features Cyrus Avery, his wife, daughter, and the family cat traveling west on the newly commissioned Route 66. Trying to cross the Arkansas River on the bridge that he built, they are blocked by a teamster and his dog traveling east, hauling barrels and pipes from the oil fields of West Tulsa. This Route 66 monument is where east meets west, where old meets new, and the past meets the future. And this is Cyrus Avery. And that is one freaked out feline. Most of the construction in the Riverview neighborhood was between 1905 and 1930. This is a great example of the Roaring '20s. This building was constructed in 1929. It's the Bruce Goff Riverside Studio. I do have a full episode about this building on my channel. You should check it out if you have not done so. It was opened in May of 1929 by Patty Adams Schreiner as the Riverside School of Music. But as the Roaring '20s ended, the Great Depression began. And only a few years after opening this studio, Patty Adams Schreiner lost this building to the bank in foreclosure. During the Great Depression, music teachers were non-essential. Another example of how the Great Depression affected development of the Riverview neighborhood, these are the Hemphurst buildings, once again covered in a previous episode on this channel. These 6 apartment buildings were completed in 1930, but they were originally supposed to be 16 buildings. So as you see the gray apartments at the end, you see the red apartment building behind the Hemphurst buildings. All of that area was supposed to be covered with these Tudor Revival apartment buildings, but once the Great Depression hit Tulsa, the developer stopped at these 6. Thank you for joining me on this walk through the Riverview neighborhood and learning about the history of Tulsa through the history of this neighborhood. Today we covered the time period between 1828 and 1930. Certainly there's a lot more to learn and to talk about with the Riverview neighborhood, so we will continue this conversation. If you want to know more about the Arkansas River and development of the river in the Tulsa area, I encourage you to check out the Tulsa Times podcast. The most recent episode is about the Arkansas River and Arkansas River development. In the meantime, I'm going to leave you with a few more images from the Riverview neighborhood. This home predates the mall, built in 1905 when there was nothing else in the Riverview neighborhood. Nestled behind the major intersection of 15th and Denver, tree-lined Elwood Avenue features classic American craftsman style.